Let's start with the NRL, given, round 4 is well and truly underway. Of course, we've had the news that NRL, we're going to be allowed to have a few people in as of Thursday.
Yeah.
Braith, 2 matches last night, and the feature was in Melbourne. The Storm too good for the South. Cam Munster had a huge game.
Yeah, Janie, he was fantastic. Probably not the best game, to be honest. I don't think either side would be too impressed with their own performances. Melbourne both had disappointing losses last week, which was a bit of a surprise. The Roosters beat South last week, and Melbourne were beaten by Canberra, who are premiership threats this season. So they wanted to bounce back. Melbourne were good without being great. South were poor in the second half. They didn't complete any of their sets of 6. I think they had around 10 errors and give themselves no opportunity at all. But the difference was Cameron Munster. He was outstanding. He was their best player. Come up with a couple of really big critical plays in huge moments that he usually does. I mean, he's a representative player. He's done it at origin level. And he did it last night against South Sydney, who are under a bit of pressure. They've had a lot of off-field dramas with Latrell and Cody Walker being out for the first 2 rounds. So with a couple of losses, I think they've only won 1 from 3 now. So they're under 1 from 4 in the season. So they're under pressure. South need to perform, but Melbourne are back on track.
And for the South, just the 1 win so far. What did you make of Latrell Mitchell's performance? Many say his best of the season, but is he in the right position, do you think?
Yeah, Janie, good question. I think he's definitely improved, and you're right. It was his best performance of the season. He's getting better every week. Is it the right or wrong position for him? We could debate that all year. Honestly, I think the majority, including myself, think that his best position is at centre. Wayne Bennett thinks that fullback is the best position for him at that club for them to succeed. But, I'm not sure. They're really struggling in a few other key areas. Cody Walker being out. James Roberts should come into the centres. They're lacking a bit of firepower there. But even their forward pack, you talk about Latrell and his performances. You need momentum. You need speed. You need to win that ruck and try and dominate through the middle of the field, which therefore gives players like Latrell more time and space to see how brilliant he is. And he hasn't quite had that, but he's still played well. I think he's getting better every week.
Yeah, he certainly looks that way, but I'm not really looking forward to speaking to Stephen Fennick, a Rabbitohs fan, when he comes and joins me soon. He's not going to be too happy.
No,
Nick,
he won't be.
No, not at all. Hey, Nick, what's the general reaction in Melbourne that the NRL was back first, but also for the Storm? Has it helped, do you think, them get more coverage and support in their home state?
I think it's nice that the NRL finally take the lead role in Australian sport in front of the AFL, which we often say down here in the southern states has dominated our country for a long period of time. I must say, and we've been discussing this, it feels like for months between Braith and I, that I sit here now actually really proud that the NRL have gone the way they have about it, but also where the AFL sit now. We're 5 days away from our season. And I think the powers that be at the AFL and the broadcasters have actually learnt a few things over the last couple of weeks with the crowd noise, the way that the game's being received, the way that they're broadcasting. And I think we sit here as an AFL community actually really excited and feel like we might be even better placed than what we were maybe 2 weeks ago before the NRL started.
What do you think about the sound? Because, I mean, I heard something in the Bundesliga last week, and there was mixed reports having the fake crowds. I guess a lot of people are thinking that it's a good thing, but I'd love both of your opinions, in fact. What would it be like just having no one there? Because I'm sure you certainly rely on such a mighty noise for momentum and so forth. But, as a player and as a viewer, do you think it's a good thing?
I'm okay to trial it. I don't think that's been a major concern. And watching the last couple of weeks of NRL, I think it has worked at times. There's no doubt about that. You obviously miss something, and we're not, as broadcasters, we're not trying to trick the general public to try and say, hey, there is 50 or 100,000 people in the stadium. I think it just subtly gives some sort of atmosphere and just creates some sort of vibe within the stadium, or if you're watching it on TV. So I sit here okay with the idea. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't change, that it can't be adapted as the season plays out. But I think it's worth a try. And I think when I speak to my mates that just do everyday jobs, they like it and they're accepting that, hey, this is better than nothing. So let's just trial it. If it doesn't work, we can move it aside and just go back to what we did in round 1 anyway.
Yeah, good idea. And Braith, what do you think about the cardboard cutouts and the fake noise? You think it's going to be a good idea?
The cardboard cutouts are a bit weird, but I think with the fake noise, it brings a sense of reality. I know that it's not for everyone, and everyone doesn't love it. I think the majority like it, but just as a caller, I think as a caller as a broadcaster, when you're calling the games, you get a lot of your energy off the crowd, and their reaction. So I've really enjoyed it. I know that the callers in it, Fox have, Dan Ganane and Warren Smith and Vossi, we've all really, it gets you up for the game. So I think the more energy we can bring, the better the telecast is and the better spectacle the game is as a whole. So I think it's been welcomed. Sure, a few people haven't liked it, but I think overall it's been a positive.
We're going to see more of that as well. Other sports such as tennis and the Formula One with no crowds also. So it's going to be a sign of what's to come. Penrith also a good night last night, Braith. Are you a little worried, do you think, about the Warriors from what you saw?
Yeah, I am, Janie. It was a great story last week when they won after going through so much just to get over the borders and to help the game survive, really, and continue on. But they come up against the Dragons, so if you're a Dragon supporter, the form line's not good. They were terrible against the Warriors, and the Warriors bounced back this week and were ordinary against Penrith last night. So it is a concern. I think if you're a Warriors supporter or even a Dragon supporter, you're probably worried about what's going to happen on Monday against the Bulldogs. But in terms of Penrith, they hit back really well. They were poor last week against a Newcastle side who lost Mitchell Pearce and Connor Watson in the first 10 minutes. They should have won. They missed 5 field goal attempts, Matt Burton, but he came up with a couple of tries last night and was close to their man of the match. So it was a really good hit back. And Penrith, without Cleary in for off-field discretions the first 2 rounds of the year, really important. They got off to a good start, so really good from them.
And Nick, thoughts on how the game will look after the limited prep for players and no fans in the stadium? How do you think that's going to impact things, do you think? And also with Gillon McLachlan announcing that he would like to see 100,000 fans attending the grand final.
First of all, baby steps in regards to the crowd turning up. Let's try 50, and I think that's a safe way to go about it once again, and the AFL's been really responsible with their approach to this COVID situation. So let's start off with baby steps, and if we can later in the year have 100,000, then so be it. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the hubs and how it's all going to play out. Now, I think the way that it ultimately will play out from here is the best teams will remain the best teams. I don't see there being a huge advantage or a disadvantage, even for a team like West Coast, who I think are right around the mark of competing at the end of the year. They're going to travel from one side of the country to the other and be in a hub for a month. But I still think there's something about team sport and coming together in that unity. And if you have to move away to do it, I think if anything, it will bond them and make them a better team. So I expect them to go to Queensland, be based up there for about a month and probably win the majority of those games anyway before they go back home and hopefully get a better run playing some home games on the way back. But we're just really excited. I mean, that's the general feel of everybody in the southern states, and we're just really excited to see football back in 5 or 6 days' time.
Yeah, not long now. Now, this is a cheeky question to you, Braith, and I've got to say it was from someone from the sports team. Should the AFL call on Peter V'landys to go down and help them out? He's been getting it done for the NRL. Do you think he could...
Very cheeky. I think Gil does a great job. I think Dale might have something to say about that, but I actually forgot that AFL existed. When is it coming back? All I've been watching is the rugby league at the moment.
That is cheeky. I tell you what, I'm a Roosters fan. I watched them thrash the Broncos the other night. Terry Galloway, our reporter here, as I was rubbing it in.
Oh, they've been great, Janie. I couldnn't believe how amazing they've come back after the break. Their first 2 wins of the season, their premiership threats again. They could get 3 in a row, Janie, which will be good.